Okay, our next demo is about value-based dynamic formatting, which is essentially trying to format individual data points within a series with unique formatting rules based on its value. So to give you an example, let's look at our value-based formatting tab, and here I've just got two columns of data looking at click volume by day. So if I were to select A and B and just insert your basic column chart, now as you can see, if I right-click the series and format, any changes I make here, like fill for instance, are applied to the entire series. But what if I want to feature or highlight individual data points or columns based on their values? So let's say I want to highlight any point where click volume is greater than 8,000. So this point, this one, and so on and so forth. You could individually select data points and manually change their fill, but that's obviously not a scalable solution, and it doesn't allow you to change or adjust your thresholds to automate that process. So I'm going to undo that change. What we essentially need to do here is split out or segment our original series into multiple sub-series that fall into the buckets that we want to format with unique rules. So for instance, in this case, if I wanted to apply that 8,000 threshold that we just talked about, I could create two new columns in C and D, where one column populates the click volume for any dates where clicks are greater than 8,000, and the second column populates clicks for any dates where clicks are less than 8,000, and then update my graph to read from those two columns instead of my original column B. That way I could format my greater than 8,000 column one color and my less than 8,000 column another color. So we're going to do something similar but get a little bit fancier here. And what I want to do in this case is create 4 subsegments of data based on my click volumes. In other words, I want to calculate quartile 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then format those quartiles as individual data series. So to do that, in cell C1, I'm going to enter a new column header called %rank. And here I'm going to use Excel's %rank function, where my array is column B and my value, or my X, is the cell right to the left. So in this case, B2. And I can close that, format it as a percentage, and apply it down. And essentially what this is doing is it's telling me where each value in column B falls along a 0 to 100% scale. So the largest click volume, in this case 9,972, equates to a %rank of 100, and the smallest, which in this case is 5,029, equates to a 0. And I'm going to use these %rank values to split out this original series into 4 subsegments based on quartiles. So my header for D1 will be 0.25, E1 will be 0.5, F will be 0.75, and G will be 1. And I can just grab the format painter, give those the same kind of header formats. I'll just expand the decimal 2 points there. And now we need to write some functions that essentially bucket the click numbers into one of these 4 columns based on its value. So we'll need to use some conditional statements and logical operators to make that happen. So we'll start in cell D2, and we'll say if the %rank in column C is less than or equal to the value in my header here, D1, then I want to return the click volume. Otherwise, I want to leave this blank, and I can do that just by typing 2 consecutive quotation marks. Now before I lock this in, I want to make some reference type adjustments. So C2, I just want to lock the column, because eventually I want to apply these formulas across columns and down rows, so I'm trying to be very conscious about what type of reference types I set. And then for D1, which is my header, headers always live in row 1, so I can just fix the row and leave the D relative so that the D can shift as I move column to column. And then similar to the C2 here, I'm going to lock just the column for the B, because I want this formula to adjust rows as I move downward. So I'll hit OK. And now if I apply this down, you'll note that the only cells populating values are cells where a %rank falls under 25. So there's a 20, 24, 15, etc. So now similar case here, we just need to write a new function because here we need values that are greater than 0.25 but less than or equal to 0.5. So similar kind of case here, but we're going to use if with an AND conditional statement. And our first logical is if %rank is greater than 0.25, and our second logical is if our %rank is less than or equal to 0.5. And then we can close the first parenthesis. Value if true will be our click value, which is in B2. Value if false will be blank. And again, I'm going to go through and edit my reference types using the F4 shortcut. So for C2, I just want to fix the column. D1, I just want to fix the row. Again, C2, just the column. E1, just the row. And then B2, just the column. And then press enter. And I should be able to apply this over and down and have everything populate properly. So now, if this all worked correctly, every data point in column B, our original series, has now been bucketed into one of these four columns, D, E, F, or G. So altogether, we have every data point that we had in our original series in column B. We just have them broken out by value. And that will allow us to create whatever formatting rules we choose on each of these series individually. So let's go ahead and insert a new column chart and add some series to it. So I'll select data, add a series. First series will be our first quartile. I'm going to control shift arrow down to grab all my values there. Press OK. My x-axis, those are my dates, which are A2 through A61. Add a second series for my 0.5, everything that falls into my second quartile. There we go. Again, my x-axis is dates. I'm going to repeat this 2 more times for my third quartile. There we go. A little bit manual, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And then finally, we're adding our fourth and final quartile with our values from column G. And this should just about wrap things up. Press OK. So now let's drag this out. Now we can format the data series, we can reduce the gap width, and reduce the overlap to kind of replicate our original column chart style. And now as you select, you'll notice that you can select each of these series individually. And in your drop down from your formatting pane, you can also select each of the 4. So this now breaks it out into individual series that we can format however we choose. So in this case for 0.25, why don't we give it a solid fill with kind of a light gray. Then for 0.5, let's do a solid fill with a light green. For 0.75, we'll do kind of a darker green. And then finally for 1, let's give it the darkest green of all. And now we press OK. As you can see, this series is exactly the same whether we selected the original composite series in column B or a combination of the 4 subseries that we built out, which when aggregated also reflect column B. And you can see that it's the same values, except now I've got individual formatting rules based on these 4 quartiles of values. And then the last thing we can do just to make this a little bit fun is instead of hard coding the click column, I just want to show you because it's a nice visual way to test that what we've done truly is dynamic. So replace these with a random number generator. So I'm going to use rand between 5,000 and 10,000. You could do any values here if you want. Now when I do that and apply it down, now these are random numbers that will randomize every time I calculate the worksheet. So I can go into formulas and just hit calculate now over and over. And as you can see, no matter what value a particular date or data point takes, it will always be formatted properly based on those quartile breakouts. So a really cool way to add a unique form of dynamic formatting to your Excel visuals.